Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, show number 20. We're your hosts, Dave.
Jason.
Violet can't join us today. She's under the weather. Our guest today is Lisa Wilson. Lisa Wilson is a transformational coach and founder of the Aspen Center for Empowerment and Healing. For over 17 years, Lisa has guided her clients to release their subconscious programming and achieve remarkable success. Her mission and commitment are to guide you through an amazing transformational journey that will take you from abandonment and despair to creative empowerment. She will also help you release your self-defeating patterns to become your true self and to express your divinity and fulfill your soul purpose. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here with you.
Well, tell us more about yourself. How did you get to this point in your life?
My journey started, of course, I was way back. I was born into a family dynamic of narcissistic personality disorder, abusive relationships, and had to navigate some pretty difficult territory most of my life. Went from family structure of narcissism to all relationships, personal, business, friendships, or so I thought. And in 2009, I gave birth to my son, which opened me up to seeing it so clearly, and that was where my shift really started to take place.
Oh, that's great. You talk about a history of narcissism. I'm sure you've done lots of introspection in your life. So how did you end up surrounding yourself with narcissists? Was this a learning experience? Was this a soul path? What do you see that as?
For my understanding of it and my journey through it, it has been a vibrational magnet. And that's where my work has been birthed. I really work with the subconscious programs that align us to life experiences that bring us unwanted experiences or unwanted outcomes, and find ways to shifting that energy frequency so that we can align with a more positive, higher vibrational energy, so to speak, and bring in joyful experiences. And it doesn't mean that life is always going to be joyful. It's just that we can navigate the territory in a different way, that the awareness and understanding is that everything is there to serve your highest and best good. And when we could take the gifts out of that and actually use it as a transformational journey to our own self-love. And that's where Radically Authentic has come from. And I birthed that entire program right now. I'm doing a telesummit called Radically Authentic You. And I'm really magnetizing to people who are truly owning their power, their truth, full transparency. And that was birthed because the narcissistic relationships are completely, there's no transparency. They're completely hidden, and they operate under the radar, and they're very manipulative and cunning. And I'll always say that the narcissist, for me and for the clients that I work with, has been my greatest gift.
Okay.
I see them, when those relationships show up for me, as a big red bow, because there's something in there that I get to really journey into, to look. I always say there's two paths that the narcissist, if you've brought in a narcissistic relationship, there's two paths that you're going to go down. You're either going to completely give into it and be taken out, because narcissists are extremely abusive and very manipulative. And I'm not just talking about overinflated ego. We're talking about the scale of narcissism, from the overinflated ego to the psychopath. And I've played with all of it. Or you're going to use it as a launching off pad for your own power, empowerment, and self-love.
So you've given us some clues as to what narcissists look like in some of the behaviors. So to help people maybe better understand if they've succumb to that or they have it in their experience, like how would you define a narcissist? How would somebody recognize if that's something that is present in their world? Because a lot of times, like you said, they're so clever and cunning. They're that person that creates drama, on a whim and feeds off of it. But they're also the one who creates joy and feeds off of it. They're good at both sides of the coin. So help people understand what you mean by narcissist.
Yeah, so thank you for that question, because that's part of where people get tripped up and where I was tripped up for many, many, many years, especially being born into a family structure of it, because that was all I ever knew. So to me, that was how I identified healthy relationships, because it's all I ever knew. I have made it very simple. What I say is that if you'll always leave a relationship with a narcissist kind of scratching your head and second guessing yourself. Because after the love bomb phase, they come in, they love bomb the daylights out of you. So they listen to your every aspect of you. They read you. And there's a whole other level of it. It's a psychic connection. They magnetize straight into your wounded self. And the work I do is to close the back door, to heal our wounds. When we close our own back door, the robber can't come into the back door and steal the groceries out of your refrigerator, and that's what the narcissist does. But you'll leave these relationships questioning yourself. There'll be kind of on one level you're feeling like this person really loves you, and then on the next moment, literally, you're kind of like, well, what did that mean, or what did they say? So there's always this doubt. And then I make it even more simplistic. Let's do the up spiral, down spiral. If it's up spiral and your name is on it and it feels good, keep doing it. If it doesn't feel good, it's not up spiral. Boom. Don't play with it. If it doesn't feel good, if you walk away from these relationships, because they will drain the life force energy out of you. You're the one who gives up you in these experiences. And you're so powerful. We all are. But we have to learn discernment, and we have to dial it into such a degree that our no is solid and our yes is solid. So if it's up spiral, it feels good, you say yes, you continue. If it turns and it starts to go downward spiral, you could have that conversation. Let's have a conversation, let's talk about it. If it doesn't progress, it's downward spiral, it's time to walk away.
Narcissists make me tired. Would I allow that opportunity for that to get drained, and then afterwards I'm like, no! I fell victim. I allowed myself to be a victim. But there's such a pattern of what they implement and what they're capable of. I find that it's almost as if narcissists have access to a collective. So not only do they have their own abilities, it's like they can tap into, like you said, psychic levels of things, and they understand it in a framework that gives them an advantage. So they really can be under the radar. They can be right in your face and be that person in your life, but you just don't put it together.
Yes.
Right? They can be the one for you, but still playing the game. And it's I work with a lot of people that discover that after many, many years, and a lot of people kick themselves about it. So when somebody gets into that framework, when they recognize that's what I've been allowing to occur in my life, what do you tell them when they realize, oh no, now I see it, and what do I do?
Yes.
Like what are the next steps when they identify it?
I have a lot to say about that, and thank you for that question. Because that really has been how I've defined my work. I used to call myself a light worker. I thought for my entire life I was a light worker on this planet. And only to discover I am actually a shadow worker. And the work I do is really helping people integrate the shadow. Because the narcissist is tricky. And the trickster sometimes needs to be there. Some of my greatest shifts happen through the extreme covert narcissist that showed up in my life, that I had to dive in deep to a relationship with that person in order to pull myself out of it and birth a new me. So that's why I say the narcissist is always your greatest gift. What do I tell my clients? I had a beautiful client that I was working with recently, and she said, it was just such a great conversation, and she said, I think my relationship is, I think this person's a narcissist. And I said, it doesn't matter. Like, who cares if it's a narcissist or not? Bottom line is how do you feel in it? Do you feel loved? Do you feel supported? Do you feel connected? Do you feel like this person has your back? If not, that's where you want to look. See, it's a self-love journey. And we're all learning how to come into deeper states of self-love. So what do I tell my clients when they do wake up and they've said yes to experience relationships that have brought them terrible experiences, and they go down in flames, because you do go down in flames with these experiences. I say, can you love that part of yourself that said yes, that needed to bring it in? It's the shadow work. It's really integrating those parts of ourselves where we have disconnected, and that's the back door. That's where the narcissist gets in to our wound, because we don't want to look at that part of ourselves. So when we come up against it, we're not here to... Narcissists are everywhere. Oh my goodness. I think when we actually get really clear about what that percentage really is, it's significant, and we're unraveling it in bigger ways of seeing it. So we're not operating in a place of fear. We're in a place of love. And you say, if you've come up against it, it's there to serve your highest and best good. You needed it. So can you love the part of yourself that said yes?
It sounds like, to me, and help me put this together if I'm off track here, but you really help people look in the blind spot.
Absolutely.
Right? That area that they don't have coverage, and give them the opportunity to see all of it.
Absolutely.
So you're kind of giving them night goggles for themselves in a way, right? Like, that's pretty cool, because that's a special talent, right? So first of all, you got to put the goggles on. Then you got to adjust yourself to be able to see green, everything green, right? So it's new and it's different, and you really help people come to terms with that. And I'm a firm believer that embracing your shadow side, if you haven't done so, actually reaps incredible benefits unavailable to you without embracing that part of who you are. Because, like you said, being in a light worker, it's not possible to be in the light all the time. The sun sets. It gets dark in your room at night. It's how you sleep. Like that is a part of our cycle. And to try and differentiate that, we try to stay away from it and try not to look at it. And we're trained not to. But that's part of the programming that keeps us from what we can really do, because that's where a lot of our passion and our fire is.
That's right.
Right? And as soon as you talked about doing shadow work with people and getting in that dark place, your passion came right up to the surface. It was so obvious in the way you shifted and the way you were presenting that it really is, for lack of a better term, working in the shadow is your happy place.
It really is.
I'd love a credit on that T-shirt when you start printing them. The shadow is my happy place. That's there. 100 of those will sell before this show even airs, probably. But what you do for people in that space is really amazing and powerful, and more practitioners are starting to identify with that, and that word of shadow is losing its negativity. It's coming into a better place now, and it's great that you're spearheading some of that.
Thank you so much. And you're right. When we shine a light on the shadow disappears, doesn't it? We're able to bring in the fullness of it, because the truth is, we're human. We're in this human body. We're in this existence. We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Right.
And in this human experience, we have to love the messiness of being human. We're not here to get it right.
It's part of the fun.
Oh my goodness, right? Like, we are not here to be perfect. You and I had just a little exchange about being perfect. Like, my idea of perfection is that we embrace all of our messiness. And when we can do that, we close our back door so we don't... It's not that we don't... We will create a different vibrational frequency where we're not playing with the narcissist. You'll be able to see them more clearly when they do present. But it's also knowing that if one gets through, it's meant to be.
I love that you give that permission back to somebody. And that was a fabulous question. Can you love the part of you that allowed that?
That's right.
Because you really gained most of what you're looking for and what you think is missing isn't, and you gained it from that situation. And you're right, when you look at the bigger construct of what's going on this planet, there's a lot of narcissism, and it's in so many different forms, but it's necessary for the evolution. There's not a oneness because that exists, and it can't last forever. That's just the truth of the planetary cycle, but also in the level of consciousness, at some point everybody's going to go, no more. We can't have this anymore. We can't allow this. And that will be expelled from our experience. We're not there yet, clearly, but we're starting to recognize what that looks like and what the potential really is. So people that are willing to go to that place and help folks one at a time, because that's how it starts. You save one at a time, best you can, and then you can bring groups across, and then more and more, and that spreads, and that's what that's what this awareness brings. It's beautiful what you share.
Thank you. And I just want to add just one more piece to it. The narcissist plays on that shadow. So the part of you that feels unlovable, unworthy, not enough, not good enough, that's where they plant the seeds of doubt. And if you haven't integrated, like if you don't have the ability to sit in that space and say, it's okay, I got you. That's my self-talk. I got you. Like, we needed this experience. Let's just figure out why. Let's do our due diligence to figure out why we've aligned with this. And it's loving that part, because the narcissist is constantly going to feed on that vibrational frequency of you, that opened wound.
Yeah, and we allow that. And then we get to a point where we get so used to it that it's just how things are, and we don't recognize. And then one day we go, wait a second. Wait a second, I got energy spilling out. I need that. That's fine.
That's right.
Let me maintain that for myself. And that's when your shadow side really steps up and helps you. When you ask for the assistance from that darker side, that's where the tougher stuff is. That's where the mean part of you says no more.
Yeah.
Right? And really can stand up. I mean, your ego is important. Your tools on the shadow side are just as important as the light. But we get this, go to the light. And it takes all of who we are to get us there.
Yeah, we can't live in the illusion that everything is going to be unicorns and rainbows, and it's also, happy place.
That's a very different dimension. It's like across the hall from us. There's a room for that, but literally, the unicorn room is right across the hall.
That's right. That's a completely different.
And we'll hand you your strawberry shortcake doll.
Oh, and the Care Bears on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. We just went way back with the Care Bears, didn't we?
Yes. I never did see I'm a narcissist bear.
Oh, no.
I'm Manipulation Bear.
I suck all the energy out of the room.
Still bright and smiley. He just happens to be black.
That's great.
I don't know if I've ever seen an actual black teddy bear.
No, dark brown, chocolate, but
Right.
not black.
They have little stuffed black bears, but that's specifically a black bear. Right?
Yeah.
Not a Care Bear.
Not a Care Bear.
No, black fairies, no, don't recall any of those.
Well, you're making me think about something. In Western tradition, the guru concept doesn't work very well with us because in the true sense of what a guru should do, and a lot of them are corrupt these days, a guru says, you will entrust everything to me and I will be responsible for your spiritual growth. Well, somebody who's with a narcissist ends up in almost that type of relationship where it's, okay, the narcissist, I will take care of you. And the person says, okay, I give everything to you. And then the narcissist uses sandpaper and ointment and gets you highly calibrated so you're always on edge. Mm-hmm. You're always looking for that approval. You're always looking, and one of the terms that they use is gaslighting. Yep. They totally read you and calibrate you and keep you in a place of dependency.
That's right.
And so you kind of have your dark side guru there that you've given everything to.
That's exactly right, and that's how it shows up. And that guru analogy is really the structure for a narcissistic family system. Mm-hmm. And I've written about the comparison of the two, that guru mentality and the mindset, and how it shows up within the family system and how it's the same type of structure. But that's even on the one-on-one relationships, it's how it works. They get you in that place of always constantly doubting yourself and questioning your reality.
And then providing the answer for it.
Yeah.
Just enough to keep you, like you said, sandpaper and ointment, just enough to keep you right on that edge. I'm almost healed. Oh, I'm almost.
You're never independent.
Yes.
You never get well enough to be independent.
That's right.
Well, that's if you stand on your own. That's when that energetic tie shifts, and the narcissist doesn't get what they think they're entitled to at this point.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the problem, is they feel entitled, so they lash out. Right? If you try to go out on your own and stand on your own, they actually create what will draw you back into that mode. So that they'll play both sides.
And
here's some encouragement. Oh, you're not good enough.
And it's very calculated.
And confusing.
Like, they actually will go out of their way and spend time, lots of time, creating that scenario. Like, if they feel that you have the resources energetically for them to feed off of for a very long time, they'll put in the legwork to pave the foundation to however long it takes. My ex-relationship groomed me for a good 2 years before I got to see the truth of who that was.
And sometimes that is lifelong, and I experience a lot of situations where people have that even over multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
Where it goes back, to previous relationships and timelines, and it's we get used to it and we don't recognize. But boy, when you get the opportunity to get that back, everything changes. Your energy changes, your life changes, and you recognize, oh my gosh, I was spilling out all this energy, right? That level of awareness being such a beautiful first step, just knowing. And you can't do anything else without that, without the awareness.
That is so, and I love that, because the work you do in looking into records and seeing that lineage, because it is a lineage. We're clearing the lineage right now. But what I love is, like you said, when you finally get to see it and pull your energy back home, I mean, I could sit here and know that no matter what happens in my outer life, I have me in a way that I've never had me, and I am happier than you can imagine. Like, all the external stuff is irrelevant in my reality, because the depth of my love and self-love and self-connection is beyond anything I could have ever imagined.
Which is worth way more than anything else.
There's no price tag.
All the other stuff takes care of itself when you're taking care of you.
It's amazing.
It's so true. And we forget in our give me society, achievement-driven society, to take care of ourselves. And the more we do for us, the more we can do for others. But the more we do for us, the better off we really are in the grand scheme. Like, spoil yourself a little bit. Do something nice. Take care of you.
That's right. And the narcissist is such a catalyst for it, because there's so much shame and lack and limitation that's built in. It should. And so when you finally start to come into yourself, that becomes a journey of learning how to allow prosperity and abundance into your life. How good can you allow it to really be? That's been my journey this year. And I started with just a Kundalini activation and just allowing this energy to burn away blocks. And I have to sit there and say, how good can I allow my life to actually show up for me?
Well, wherever you've been in the depths, how bad you think it's been, it is tenfold on the other side. That's the true potential.
That's right.
Don't say the sky's the limit. We put a rover on Mars.
That's right.
I mean,
that's great.
It's not even the moon anymore. We're way past that. Hey, we got pictures of Jupiter on a flyby. We don't even know how far that's going. There's a huge amount of potential, and everybody has it. And there's a lot to be gained by someone who can harness that for themselves, but there's also a lot to be gained by those that can harness it in others and keep it down and feed off of it, because they can push so far in the other direction. And it's, again, part of what we're doing here, but stepping into your personal power, being aware that you don't have it all has got to happen. That's part of it, right? That's the most beautiful moment.
And it's freedom. Freedom and liberation.
I recognize it. This sucks, but you know.
That's right.
Okay, the next question I have for you is, since I believe that narcissism is biased towards men being the narcissist and women being the target, what do we do in our family upbringing that typically has the hallmarks of creating women who are susceptible to it? What are the characteristics there, or modes?
First, I would love to speak to that because I've had more interaction in my life with what I call the Shadow Queen than I have with the Shadow King.
Okay.
So this is what I want to say about narcissistic abuse of relationships or abusive personality disorder. It's not gender specific. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with what astrological sign you are. I can't really speak to what that soul contract is and why that soul decided to incarnate as that, but I'm sure it serves the highest and greatest good for all concerned. Yeah. I know the narcissist has taught me my power and that self-love. What do we do in the family systems when we see it? For me, I was truly the light in my family structure, born into a collective whole of it across my entire lineage.
Okay.
Where did I go? I went in and it became my connection to the divine. Mm-hmm. And when I started to break apart, because what happens is when that narcissist has broken you, like they break a horse of their spirit, and when you are in that broken place, that separated schism space of yourself, that's where they control and really keep you in that energy, and that's why people don't leave. When you finally break away from that, what happens is you shine a light on the narcissist and say, I see you. And when you say, I see you, you activate within them what I call narcissistic rage. And narcissistic rage is different than just a normal kind of rage. This person turns into something that is hard to really define. Yeah. It's pretty dark. And they'll stop at nothing to take you down.
And do these people become the stalkers then, and things like that if you break off a relationship?
Oh, yeah, they'll use whatever it is, they build on the fear, of course, and then they use that fear to control and manipulate you. Yeah. So when the narcissistic rage happens, they take that fear to the next level. Like, they'll do things. Now, the one thing that people don't realize is that narcissists have no value of life.
Right.
They do not value life, so they'll make decisions that will jeopardize life. And this is where my path out was my connection to the divine, because there were, I have an extremely narcissistic ex-husband who challenges my child in very challenging ways. And first, I've learned to own my voice. I address everything. I address the dot. Oh, by the way, you did that. I have a great support team. I have a fabulous, whatever you need to help. I could never have done this journey on my own. Are you kidding me? My support team is significant. It's unwavering. I've got coaches and mentors and attorneys and things that help me. And I didn't have the financial resources to be able to afford that. Yeah. What I knew is it was not negotiable. And when I decided it was not negotiable, the divine provided me whatever I needed in order to make it happen. I don't know how that happens, right? That's a divine connection. It's a leap of faith where you have to trust. Yeah. But that journey is learning to trust in the higher parts of ourselves, that divine connection, because this is not a solo journey. When we think we could handle it alone, that's our ego, and that's where we get really taken out by that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about the male-female ratio on who are the narcissists.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm going to say that was funny because I was having this conversation thinking, wow, I think the Shadow Queen is way more challenging than the Shadow King. And they are in a different way.
Yeah.
This is what I want to say about Shadow Queen.
Okay.
The covert narcissist female has access to different states of intuitive knowingness and psychic connection than I believe or have experienced myself. Now, I could be wrong as the Shadow King. And I am writing a book about it, and I'm talking about the differences in the two, and I use different examples in both. And I think, really what it came down to is just defining the difference between a covert narcissist and an overt narcissist. Overt narcissist, because you have both. You have male and female gender overt, which are, extremely vocal and out in the public eye, and you could see them.
Yeah.
The thing that people don't understand, they miss the part that they believe that there is a conscience that lives within. And you're talking with somebody who has an absolutely closed heart. There's no emotional foundation.
Okay.
They're in their head completely. They operate from the intellect. And they will observe and watch. I know an covert narcissist who spent 14 years in counseling, and not because she needed therapy, because it was her way of learning how to access people at their core.
Ooh.
We're not talking light and fluffy.
No.
It's very calculated. And until you understand, even recently in my community, where I live, we had a whole thing with the Ponzi scheme and Bernie Madoff. Impacted a lot of people in my community. And what was funny is I was just researching some of his behavior patterns, and I was listening to an interview that a Harvard medical psychologist, graduate, had interviewed him. And, I sat there and I'm thinking, okay, he's really got the behavior dialed in, except for he's missing the key component, which is this person actually has fun messing with you. They find joy in creating havoc in your reality, that he's not suffering in jail. He is patting himself on the back for what he was able to get away with for so long.
Savoring the experience.
And he's creating it where he now operates. He doesn't care that his wife left him and his kid committed suicide.
Yeah.
There's no emotional connection. It's shut down. So it's not even gender. It's just it's a disconnect from the heart.
Okay. I want to talk about it some more. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Vialet Rayne, Master and Teacher of Sacred Priesthood in the Mystery Schools here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. This is a program that I offer about once a year. We take on students to start this program. It's an 18-month program, which means there are 13 classes. We teach a class once a month, and we skip months with holidays. And on this path, men and women can come together to become sacred priests and sacred priestesses of the Order of Melchizedek. The Order of Melchizedek is the oldest sacred priesthood on this planet. It was mentioned in the Bible and still exists today. This is about walking a path of beauty, sacredness, and service. It's about learning how to be a magical creator of your own life and using the universal mysteries to create whatever type of life that you're looking for. This path is filled with magic, about learning prosperity, about creating, about sacred geometry, about Kabbalah, about learning about the ascended masters, the archangels, the elementals, including dragons and fairies and unicorns and the mermaids. It brings all that universal wisdom together to create a way for everyone to have that joyful and abundant life that they've always wanted. I hope that you will check out our website under classes and look for Mystery School or look for Sacred Priesthood and find out more about these classes and what we have to offer. I look forward to seeing you in class, and I hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Well, welcome back. We're talking to Lisa Wilson and learning all about how people can cope with dysfunction. And hopefully it's not in them for very long as they move forward. So I want to talk about something I've seen, because now in my practice, it just happens this way. I see mostly women. So I mostly hear about failed relationships they've had, and in some percentage of them, the ones who have labeled their exes as narcissists or their boyfriends as narcissists and that kind of thing. But I do recall back in my engineering work, when I worked with some of the young engineers, a couple of them got tied into these young ladies, and the young ladies ended up poisoning their relationships so they could only have the friends that the wife approved of. And so they cut out all their guy friend circle. And then pretty soon the next target was cutting out and alienating their siblings and their parents. And it's kind of like finally after 2 or 3 or 4 years of this, they woke up out of the fog and said, what have I done? And who is this person who's living in my house? And, people like me and others, their friends tried to warn them, say, what are you letting her do? Oh, well, she knows best. And it's like, oh man, you're going down a slippery road here, and it doesn't have a good ending.
Yeah, that's... I think, and speaking to that, what I love to do is, because abusive relationships with narcissists are so toxic, and they're so calculated, and they're so manipulative, and there's so many moving parts to them, let's just keep it simple. Toxic relationships are just that. Yeah. They're toxic. Mm-hmm. And they will weave their way into every facet that you allow them. See, nobody is a victim. Mm-hmm. We are powerful beyond measure, all of us. And when we can recognize the truth of who we are and clear this connection to generational, lineage, behavior patterns that have been passed down generation to generation, we're learning what is a healthy relationship. Well, in order to really understand healthy relationship, we have to understand what it is to be healthy. We have to be healthy within ourselves, and we have to have a solid yes and a solid no, and that's where my up spiral, down spiral, right? Mm-hmm. Claiming our power, really stepping into the truth of who we are. If it's right for you, it's absolutely right, and it doesn't matter how that shows up in the rest of the world. We have been conditioned to believe that we have to take care of our parents. I love Mother's Day or Father's Day when there is all this, wonderful, or there's these quotes that come out, your mother, the minute they're not here, make sure you keep those relationships going. Mm-hmm. This is all, except for if that relationship does not serve you, why is it that I need to make sure I keep that relationship going because she's my blood relative? My little girl is brokenhearted that is the mother that I chose to come into this life with. And the father that I was birthed into. And yet, when I have said no to bad behavior, I say yes to and when I say yes to me, everything in the universe will conspire to help me align with that yes. And all of a sudden, my soul tribe shows up. And the family that I truly belong to show up. Yeah. And I get to experience divine love, but it's letting go of the toxicity, because I believe that I have to, or I've been conditioned that that's my right to have to take care of my mother. Yeah.
Well, we all grow up with culture in our families, and we all naturally assume, unless we question it and really do the work, that culture is the norm and it's what everybody else does. I have 2 psychologist brothers, and one of them was working with a family where the father was abusive to the kids. Physically abusive, and to the point one time where he would get very upset if the kids did anything such that they came home and didn't eat their dinner, didn't clean their plate. He'd taken one of his daughters, she'd eaten some candy or some stuff with friends, came home, didn't eat all her spaghetti. He smashed her face into the plate so hard it broke her glasses. And when my brother asked him about that, I said, don't you think that's a little severe for something like this? And he said, wasn't this how all families do it? He assumed that the way he was brought up was the norm, and he continued going forward. So if you grow up and you have parents in a dysfunctional relationship, and you don't question it, or you don't look around for, I can't believe this is it, there's got to be a better model, this sucks, and you don't go out and question it, and you grow up with that, then once again, you're either going to fall into that relationship and mimic those behaviors, or you're going to find somebody who's going to manipulate you really good because they can read what you grew up with, and you're right picking.
But you're absolutely right. You know, that's where I've developed and designed my 7-step program out of these experiences. Because you have to self-assess.
Yeah.
The first and the key for this journey of freedom and liberation into self-love is awareness and clarity. Yeah. Until you become aware and clear. I remember sitting in my family, and I had my second marriage dissolved, and I remember sitting there in just this state of, oh my goodness, what happened? And I remember thinking to myself, I can't go look to my family model because they're not healthy.
There's nothing to learn there.
Nothing. So I actually found a client of mine who was living it and breathing it, and I asked her if she could mentor me, and she did for a year. She set up a parameter and pretty much said, yeah, this is how we're going to operate, and the minute that contract gets changes form and we don't show up respecting each other's space. And I was young, you know, when this happened. Yeah. I was 20-something years, late 20s. And I had a lot of chaos in my life. I was living on the drama triangle. Of course I was. How could I not be? I was surrounded by narcissists. And she worked with me for a year until one day I completely messed up. And I had gotten enmeshed in another toxic relationship. And he was sucking the life force energy out of me, and I missed my appointment with her because I was in a downward spiral and crazy in my head. And she fired me on the spot. Yep. And it was one of the greatest teachings I ever had in that moment. So it's not to say that, you know, it's. I sat here because even, you know, recently I had an experience with a dear friend that was challenged. But with the tools and the mindset that I have today, it's just so beautiful because I'm not saying this journey is easy, but when you get the aha, the awareness, the clarity, and then start on the path of love and forgiveness and coming into your power, you have the ability to see why you brought it to you. Yeah. What it was there to serve. See, the ego wants to tell us that our lives are supposed to be, or we've been brainwashed to believe that, oh, the American dream or whatever, cultural conditioning, if we have the house and we have the money and we have the relationship or we're traveling, that life is going to be so beautiful. Right. And yet I live in a community that has, you know, some of the greatest wealth in the world and more suicide than you can imagine. Yeah. True happiness is a place of our own self-love. And it's a journey to discover that and to find that strength and that power within you. But you have to become aware. And part of that awareness, you know, when I first got clear to what a narcissist was, that was a journey within itself. Because I didn't even know behavioral patterns of that nature. I mean, that was foreign to me. And when I saw it clearly, because I commanded to see it, I had some things take place in my life that helped me ask a bigger question so that I could open up the conversation with the natural world in a bigger way. And I commanded to see it. And when I saw it, because it came, you know, you ask and it is given. It really is a beautiful, magical place we live in. And I saw it in its fullness. I remember sitting in the shower in tears because what I saw was so dark and so scary that from that day, April 11th, 2011, from that day onward, I said every day, and I surrender this day to you, dear God. May your will be done. And I became a journey into service and to be the best that I could be for others. I became part of the movement to help shine a light on it.
Good. Well, do you ever make an attempt to help a narcissist change, or is that just
that's a beautiful question.
Wasted effort?
You know, I did a video series on will the narcissist ever change? Because that's always, you know, people want to, the ego wants to rationalize that. What I say is when you fully understand that the narcissist actually enjoys your pain, you'll stop asking that question. You'll just walk away. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and we're not even talking about some of the ones that could walk through, right? Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation. So why say yes to that? Yeah. Okay. And going down even deeper to that, when you come into a place of self-love, And learning to be alone, that's one of the stages that I take my clients through. I mean, that's a process because we've been so conditioned to connect that until you break state from the energetic, magnetic connection you've had to the narcissist, you have to take a pause. You have to be alone. The world around you will drop because you've aligned to the same vibrational frequency. And when you take your power out of it, those relationships will shift and your world will change. And there's a whole journey I do around learning to be alone. And when you end up in that space of really owning yourself, oh boy, there are no words for the joy that comes through that. Because you'll never not have that ever again once you connect to it. When you connect to that part of yourself that knows you're okay no matter what, that you go up to source, connect, and co-create your life, you get to then choose what you say yes to. You're not saying yes because you need something. It becomes...
You come into your own power.
It's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the tools that narcissists use to manipulate you? I'm sure passive-aggressive shows up.
Oh, yes.
And that sucks you in very easily when you think you're being the good person there.
No. It's so tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, there's a series that they take you through, and first they love bomb, and that's where they really show up in a way. You know, I sit there and I watch behavioral patterns in the narcissist on the prowl, so to speak, when they're looking for their next victim.
Yeah.
Because it's prey. They're looking for their prey. And they will use props. So if they're like in a community where I live where there's a lot of monetary emphasis on you know, having things to make yourself happy, or people are in search of that, they'll use those props, so certain money and certain status. The one thing that I think is really funny to watch is when you do shine a light on a narcissist, oh my goodness, it's like a snake. You know, they try to slither into something. So what they'll do is they'll jump into some sort of way that the community will see them in the beauty of who they are. So they'll volunteer for some big cause. They'll take a movement on some big global platform stage. If it's not global, they'll become volunteer firefighters. They'll take on some significant role within society that everybody will shine a light to say that this person is really wonderful. So, you know, they're really funny to watch when you can start to see them. Oh my goodness, they come clear in so many ways. And you're just like, wow. Because people put that on a pedestal. So they love bomb. First, they spend so much time just celebrating you. And that's where we get hooked up. You know, that's where... Who doesn't want to be love bombed?
Yeah.
I'm a love of love. I love love. Oh my goodness. Like, it feels so good when somebody's loving on you. I love to love on people. So that's why I say if we end up in these... But it's... What happens is it turns. And I remember my grooming phase lasted 2 years. I mean, we're talking all the stops pulled out. Dinners and travel. And, you know, at that time of my life, I was looking outside myself for the monetary value. To, you know, because I had worked so hard and struggled so hard that, and I bought into the story that was going to do it. Like, if I had that, my life will feel good. So that was where that swept in for me. But it doesn't have to be through money. Or status. But, you know, it was a constant grooming. Dinners and travel and parties and stuff and, you know, airplane rides and private jets and things of that nature. And after we got married, all of it stopped. Cold turkey.
Oh, sure. Don't need it anymore.
Like, done. Like, completely. So it was, but at that point, I had already, and because, you know, I'd been married twice before. My first husband was killed in a car accident. And my second husband I married because I didn't know how to break up with him, because my abandonment from the death of my first husband was so impactful in such a way that I couldn't find my voice. And I remember journaling after I married my second husband saying, oh my goodness, you made the biggest mistake of your life. Like, I just didn't have the power to walk away from it.
Yeah.
I thought if I moved cross country, like, I'm going to get out of here. That was my breaking up. And he followed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, by the time I got married to my third husband, he knew that was a big piece for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't going to, once he married me, like, I was probably going to stick it out because I wasn't going to go through another divorce, right?
You're in the chains.
That was right. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I was groomed for that.
Mm-hmm.
He saw that coming.
Yeah.
You know, he planned that. So, I celebrate him. I truly do. Because he gifted me with, oh my goodness, every day to this day, and it's been over 4 years now that I still wake up. And let me just say, you know, I have not dated and I have not enmeshed myself in a relationship in 4 years, and I love the path I'm on.
Yeah.
You know, it's really necessary to clean and clear your energy field. Come into your own knowingness, your own power, and really build that relationship with yourself before we say yes to another.
Yeah.
And we've never been taught that. Most people never do that. And we hurry up and we connect because it validates us in ways that we're looking externally for that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I talk to a lot of clients about trying to get to the point where, number one, they are psychologically healthy, and then identifying a partner who's psychologically healty. And I work on that spiritually with them, you know, to help get their antenna up so they won't be sucked in, you know, by somebody who is deficient, and also just practical advice on, you know, things to look for, you know, warning signs, stuff like that. It's a funny thing when I look at past lives. One client in particular is so funny. I was at a fair, and she said, "My husband beats me, and he's an alcoholic." And I said, okay. And so I started looking at past lives. I find out that they've had 4 past lives as husband and wife, and every one of them, he's been an alcoholic and he's beat her. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to your soul. You never have to be with this person again. You know, this doesn't work. Right. Don't ever reincarnate with this person again. I'm telling you this at all levels. But then I said, okay, out of curiosity, let me guess. You saw this person across a room and you had an instant recognition. She goes, yes. How did you know? And I said, it's because in the previous lifetime, when you finished that one, you set your own goal that I will recognize this person in the future and never be with them. And you forgot the second part of that.
That is beautiful.
And so you had that instant recognition. And so I caution people, you know, love at first sight it can be very dangerous because you don't know why you recognize that energy, and it may be the worst thing for you. So you need other qualifying factors, you need another background, you need other people who know the two of you, and just find out if there's something lurking that's very unhealthy there. And
I love that because all that, you know, I remember having an awareness to a past life I had with one of my siblings, and I saw this lifetime where I knew I came into this lifetime to take my power back.
Yeah.
It was a significant, but when we have those soul contracts, whew, that is, I mean, it takes you to your core.
Yeah.
You know, and to walk away from those relationships where you're so enmeshed. And that's why the work I teach and the work I do is so significant, because as we build up our own center and our own point of gravity, like I said, you know, I haven't dated in 4 years. That's significant.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot of people who actually journey the way I journey. And if I could say this to everybody, oh my goodness, you know, your gold is here. I'm living it. I couldn't be... And even when things shift, like when you start to build those relationships, your connection is going to be different because you're able to really build from your own center. So you connect differently. The conversation's different. You're able to see it in a different way because you have, and then I always say to my clients, you know, at what point, there's going to be a point. This isn't about staying away from these relationships. It's about what do we do when we find ourselves in them. Because that's where, you know, I found myself in it right after I got married, 13 years later. Now, I have no regrets. I have a beautiful child that, oh my goodness, I'd do it all over again. I would do it all over again. But now let's learn from it, right? So let's take the gifts of it and let's teach it and let's be it and let's live it. So what would I do differently? I teach and work with my clients to really step into, it's okay if you end up in these experiences, but now let's find the tools, use the tools, build our foundation so we're not building a house on quicksand.
Yeah.
Build your own structure, your own foundation, so that when you are enmeshed, because there is a honeymoon phase.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When all the endorphins are just flying off the shelf. And we don't really see one another clearly until, the veil comes up. And that could be however long it takes, right? Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's a year. For me, it was 2 years grooming before the veil came up. It's, do we have the strength and the resolve within our own core? I call it Pilates of the soul. Where we built our core to such a degree that we could step into the truth of who we are. It's like you said, when I got on a call with a client, she said, and yet those soul contracts are intense when we've had lifetime after lifetime.
Yeah.
This is not a judgment. Oh my goodness, I so hold the space in the container for love. Because this is not easy stuff. But when we say this relationship is, built on toxicity. So first you address the toxicity.
Yeah.
And then you see how it goes. I love Neil Donald Walsh does a thing in his marriage vows. Today I say I do, and then let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that is the new structure for a relationship.
Yeah. Well, something I learned a long time ago, I got a psychology degree on the side, and I had a very good teacher for social psychology, and he said, let me talk to you about something else, about marriages. And, okay, we're all ears. He said, a common pattern I've seen, and you'll see it, and you'll probably continue to see it, is you have two people, they get together, they live together for several years, it really feels good, and then they get married, and within a year or two, they divorce. He said, what do you think happened? I said, well, okay, we're game, go ahead and tell us. And he said, most people live their life behaviorally where they don't think about what they do. Life is a knee-jerk reaction. And so what is the model that you have for the spouse that you'll have someday? And that model is, if it's your dad, it's your mom. If you're a guy, you're going to pick up a behavioral expectation that someday your wife, subconsciously, you'll expect her to do what your mom did. Same thing with girls and their dads. And so he said, here's what happens. So you get married, everything's wide open when you're not married. You're living together. You've moved in, and you're exploring. And you're very open in receptivity to what the other person does, what they expect, what they like. Do they like their feet rubbed? Do they like to go to see concerts? Who knows? And then you get married, and you fall back into this rut that says, okay, wife, I have this expectation that you're going to do what my mom did. You're going to get up in the morning and make breakfast for me. And the lady's sitting there, okay, you're like my image of my dad. And my dad always repaired things around the house. He took the trash out. He made sure the cars were working. He checked the oil. And so I have that expectation of you. And suddenly, in this new reality, those expectations totally fall apart because the guy doesn't know how to fix the car, doesn't know how to change the oil, the wife doesn't know how to cook, and it's like, look, if you want breakfast, go fix yourself some cereal. If you're really ambitious, make yourself some eggs. And they're both sitting there, who the hell did I marry? And it's because they haven't stopped to really examine what are their expectations, and they don't communicate about those expectations. And when they're living together, they don't cross that threshold of saying, if we were married, this is what I would expect. They never have that conversation. No. And they get married, and then things fall apart.
And I think in the work that I do and the way I see it is we're building the collective whole. We're shining a light where we're no longer entering into these contracts with the same expectations that we've been conditioned to believe needed to be in place for survival and fear. How many times do people get married for all the wrong reasons, right? For survival, for the family business, to procreate, to bring children, carry the family name, whatever the story was around relationships, and then till death do us part.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, let's just think about that for a moment. I'm going to say yes to you and your behavior is horrible, but till death do us part? No. Where's my freedom in that?
Yeah.
So that's a belief system. That's a subconscious program that is instilled, and we're changing the programming. We're breaking down the structure. It's funny, like one of my clients, I just love him. And he, he had the same thing. His mother was like arm candy on Dad's arm, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful, and ran the house, and this, that. And so he dated.
Donna Reed.
Absolutely. So he dated variations of Donna Reed.
Yeah.
And one day in all areas of his life, he was very satisfied and fulfilled in his career and his this and his that. But when it came to personal relationships, there was just, he's like, I don't know what it is. And he was dating these women that were just beautiful. And one day I walked into his office and I stuck a $100 bill on my forehead. And I said, you done dating this? Sometimes we have to shift.
Yeah.
In an extreme way, and he looked at me, his eyes just looked, and I said, first we dove into a conversation of where's your value and your worth, because it's not tied up in your money.
Yeah.
And that was a cultural thing, man went out and made the money, look at me, I'm providing, I got all the stuff.
I've checked the boxes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then she shows up, but he was looking for soul level love. That's a different relationship, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we started doing some work around it. Well, what was so beautiful is I said to him, once again, break the connection. You got to break the pattern. Go on a date fast. Take some time off. Get to know yourself. He said, well, how am I going to find her? Because he was just out dating everything. And I said, don't worry about you finding her. You will align to her like a magnet.
Yeah.
You'll become the lighthouse. And when you shine bright in your truth of who you are. But he did. He found her. What was so funny, and the whole point of this story is when I left my marriage, we were sitting on the floor because he's a dear friend too, and I was like in the rubble of my life, right?
Yeah.
It was dismantling, and I was at the phase of being excited about rebuilding me. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm never doing that again. Like, I love my apartment so much by myself.
Yeah.
Oh, I got all my stuff, and he looked at me and he said, Wilson, I'm never doing it again either. And we had this big funny conversation, and I said, wow, we're reinventing the way we do relationship. So he meets his divine counterpart. They're absolutely a match and beautiful together. And he says, I'm never doing it again. You have your own apartment. I have my own place, and we have date nights, and we spend Monday, Wednesday, Fridays together. We go on trips together, but I have my own space. You have your own space, and you should see the harmonious experience that these two are building in a whole new way of bringing relationship to the center. We're breaking the programs. No more.
Well, one of the things I keep waiting to see is, I believe that the Supreme Court, when they said that we have a right to gay marriage, I think they opened a legal door, and I'm waiting to see somebody do it where we get away from the legal concept of marriage. Right now, the legal form of marriage, not holy matrimony, but legal marriage is, number one, to decide how you're going to divide assets, and number two, how you're going to take care of kids if you have any kids. From what I see, you could do just the same thing with an LLC, and you could even have a plural marriage, and you could have members who come and go, and you could have the ground rules for what happens to the kids, what happens to the property, and we don't need to go through divorce anymore.
Wow.
And I really see the door being open for that. It hasn't quite happened yet because, one of the last strongholds is, well, you can't get your spouse's insurance unless you're legally married. And, that was one of the big pushes for the gay marriage. And so, when they say, I have a hard time, you have 6 spouses. I'm not sure that my company wants to give everybody health insurance because you're related to all of them. But I think that's about the only roadblock there.
Well, I think that's an interesting perspective to bring to it. We're dismantling the dysfunction in relationship that we've been so conditioned. And you're right. There is a whole setup in marriage that keeps us, sucked into it. I remember that was one of the things that my second ex-husband used.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll save on our insurance. We could save on rent.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, that doesn't make grounds for a healthy relationship.
We could save on my trips to the brothel.
That's right. You know, we're redefining life as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
But we are coming into higher states of love.
Yeah.
And it is oh my goodness, this is just a playground that is going to be so yummy as we develop it and create it.
Yeah.
Because as we come into our power, we're going to say no to toxicity. Mm-hmm. Upward spiral, make it simple. If it's yes and it feels good, let's continue. Mm-hmm. If it turns, then let's see if we can work it out, because you gotta connect and you gotta interact, and we gotta see if we can find our journey through it together. But if it turns downward spiral, it's time to go. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you can't come back together later and see if it goes upward spiral.
Right.
Nothing is set in stone. It's all navigating life from a place of the heart, from self-love.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we're about ready to wrap this up. Tell us what you do in terms of your business, how people can contact you, how they can work with you. Talk about that now.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me that.
Sure.
I have 2 programs getting ready to be launched. One is called Immunity from Energy Vampires, and I've created a program that is just beautiful. It was on my own path that really takes people through a journey of breaking free from toxicity. It's the foundation piece. Then I have a telesummit that I am hosting that's going to launch the end of October, called Radically Authentic You, and I've just collaborated with some beautiful people to talk about being radically authentic. I also have a package there that takes you even deeper into the energy healing work and really shifting subconscious programs.
Okay.
I do work one-on-one with clients as well, and they could find me on my website, which is the Aspen Center for Empowerment.com.
Okay. All one big word. The Aspen Center for Empowerment.
Yeah. Just Aspen Center for Empowerment.com. And I have a free gift, which I love. When I created my free gift on my program or on my website, I did it with the intention that if I never ever worked another moment with another person, or we never connected, that you would be able to utilize that and really have a shift. And it was what shifted me. So my free gift is up on my website, and that's just out there for everyone. It really does help clear the toxic energy and vibrational frequency to align you with divine love.
Good. Well, this has been a joy. Thank you for coming down from the hills to see us and do this and sit in our space. And I hope we can see you back in the not-too-distant future.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much. I am just grateful, and thank you for having me and just being able to have this fabulous conversation. Connect with you and your team are just amazing. What beautiful, beautiful soul tribe. I feel blessed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Join us next week. We're going to have several small announcements from other practitioners here, which I think you'll find interesting. So I invite you to continue listening for a few minutes and hear about what these other people do here at the center. Have a great week, and good night. Goodbye.
Hi, this is Kevin Oakstreet. I am an Oracle and Tarot reader at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts on Tuesdays from 10 to 5. A little background. I've been developing my gifts over a long time, and just recently I felt like a light was switched on, and I got a lot of support and guidance from those close to me. As I've been developing these gifts, I've known that I wanted to become a healer and to help others as well, and I would love to help you unlock your hidden potential.
Hi, I'm Vialet Rayne, Master and Teacher of Angelic Reiki at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you love angels, if you resonate with angels, or you're just interested in learning more about angels, most people really want to consider Angelic Reiki. But Angelic Reiki is more than just working with the angels and learning a new healing modality. It's about ascension. And when you step into Angelic Reiki, you're not only working with angels, but you're working with ascended masters and galactic galactic healers. The angelic kingdom of light, which includes all of those, steps in and helps you be able to hold more light. And what I have found along this journey is it expands your ability to be able to hold light, which raises your frequency, which accelerates your ascension process. So the individuals that step onto angelic Reiki are really ready to step onto their spiritual path, learn more about angels, ascended masters, galactic healers, learn possibly a new healing modality that they'll use in their life, but also they're ready for those major shifts in their lives to really be on their spiritual path and take their journey to the next level. If you've been thinking about angelic Reiki or you'd like to find out more about this beautiful modality, please don't hesitate to contact me, Vialet, at discoveryourspiritualgifts.com, or check out our website under classes. You will find angelic Reiki there with lots of information about this program and the benefits of taking this course. We hope to see you in class really soon, and I hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
My name is Selena from Love Your Light. I knew I was special when I was a little girl. I used to walk around the house whenever family members were hurting or a sick pet, and I would put my hands on them to make them feel better. Obviously, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, but I just always had the drive, the interest to want to help people feel better. And I also, when I was a child, started knowing when people were sick and knowing when they were going to pass, knowing immediately babies, boys, girls, twins, other, and it just grew from there. My mom was also an intuitive, so was my grandma, so I was in that environment. It just developed and grew the older I got. I am blessed to have a number of gifts. I am an intuitive guide. I teach Reiki, and I'm a mentor. I help people discover their gifts and abilities. I do intuitive counseling. I do energy clearings, personal energy clearings, and space energy clearings. I basically just want to help people see their light and love their light. I am at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts on Thursdays. I'm here full day as a practitioner, so I have morning, afternoon, and evening appointments. I'm also a reader Thursdays.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.